Alright, we've already covered the Blu-ray and its release coming up in March, but some new details have surfaced that throw some light on why certain scenes are not going to show up with the March release of the Blu-ray for Rise of Skywalker. Now, some interesting facts to include here now are that JJ is not going to do a director's commentary, even though he provided one for The Force Awakens, so that's a big curiosity. Now, the number of cut scenes and deleted scenes is enormous. I'm only going to concentrate on a few of the bigger ones that we have a little bit more knowledge on, such as Matt Smith's role, Anakin, Rose, Vader, and Darth Maul. So yeah, it's quite a few things that were cut. One of the big ones is Matt Smith, who was hired, and initially it was thought that he was going to play the son of Mortis, but apparently they didn't like that because they didn't think Son of Mortis was popular enough, so that was cut. According to Chris Terrio, who's the co-writer, they were thinking that he was going to be the young Palpatine. So Palpatine was going to show up, but his role was going to be much more minimal, and Smith was going to play a sort of young version of young Palpatine. And we just don't know how far along that got before his role was just entirely cut. He never shows up in the theatrical release. In the case of Kylo, there was supposed to be this opening scene, which we see when he's killing the Tusken Raiders at the beginning of Rise of Skywalker, but instead of killing Tuskens, he's apparently supposed to meet this alien figure, an Oracle, and he was going to get the Wayfinder that way, but that was entirely cut. But if you check the novelization, that scene is in that in the book. So it's obviously something that they did do, but they decided to just get rid of the scene later. In addition, they were going to do something with Anakin, which is pretty obvious. We do hear his voice at the very end when Rey is fighting Palpatine, but apparently it was supposed to be a full-blown appearance physically with Rey as well as with Luke and other Force ghosts helping Rey to defeat Palpatine. But for various reasons, they decided to cut Anakin entirely and just focus on Palpatine. Some of the more curious things that they also played with was Darth Maul and Vader. Darth Maul was a little curious. Apparently the idea was to use archival footage from Episode 1, so it's not clear that even Ray Park was involved, but apparently Kylo was supposed to see some kind of hologram with Darth Maul and discover more Sith secrets or some kind of revelation. And a kind of similar idea was with Vader, that he was going to see a hologram of Vader and interact with it and learn more. But again, both scenes were cut. Though we do hear Vader's voice, so supposedly this could have been just reworked from that scene, and they just included the voice, but got rid of the the physical actor playing Vader. There's also an interesting revelation that Rey was going to have a couple of scenes with Rose at the beginning. We see her interacting with Leia, and Kelly Marie Tran says in an interview that there was supposed to be a couple of scenes with her and Rey interacting with one another. So in the film, she's there only for 70 seconds, but apparently she did have full-blown scenes, but they were later scrapped as well. So what can we make of all this? Well, several things are going on. With the Son of Mortis, this was apparently a George Lucas idea, and Lucas was working with JJ, and he even helped film some scenes with Anakin. But Lucasfilm decided later that that this wasn't viable. They wanted to concentrate really on Rey, Palpatine, and Kylo, and that Son of Mortis, as well as some of the other storyline ideas like having a secret Skywalker being revealed, were not going to work for this version. Probably the most interesting, though, one is Luke, because Luke only shows up for 10 minutes, and clearly there were more scenes with him, and apparently the original idea was, again, like Anakin, he was going to show up in the end and help Rey and Kylo to defeat Palpatine. Palpatine even says this, that he's going to inhabit Rey's body if she kills him, but he never goes through with the threat. Apparently the idea was that Rey and Kylo would defeat Palpatine, but he would try to transfer his essence into Rey, but the Force ghosts were going to grab onto him and put him back into the netherworld, and that's where Leia and Luke and the other Force ghosts step in, as well as Anakin. Now, we can only speculate as to why they were cut. Some of it was obviously time. The original cut for Skywalker was like 4 hours. They then reduced it to 3 hours and then to 2 hours and 40 minutes. But even with that, JJ still wanted those extra minutes for the scenes, but it's what we got now, which is like a little over 2 hours and 20 minutes. So the Blu-ray isn't going to include any explicit scenes with them, but apparently some people have said, seeing the Blu-ray trailer, that we can see little bits and pieces of the Force ghosts in the background when Rey is fighting Palpatine. I've looked over the scene a couple times. I don't see it, but apparently they weren't able to completely get rid of, through CGI, all the scenes altogether. So you may be able to spot, in the background, maybe, Mace Windu or Ben, Kenobi. So that's it. these are some of the review of the major deleted scenes that were supposed to be included in Rise of Skywalker, but which are not going to appear in the Blu-ray. But again, the missing commentary from JJ indicates that not everybody was happy with ultimately what they came up with. Alright, do you think the deleted scenes would have mattered? Would they have helped? Do you think they should be included in the eventual Blu-ray release of some version of Rise of Skywalker? Comment below if you want. This has been Star Wars Analyzed, looking at the deleted scenes in Rise of Skywalker. Thank you for listening.